Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we'll be playing another premiere draft of Wilds of Eldraine. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. We've got an excellent rare here we'll probably just have to pick up. This is Twining Twins. They're 4 mana for a 4/4 Flying Vigilance with Ward 1, so an even cheaper version of Sarah Angel, the 5 mana 4/4 Flying Vigilance, and an even better version because they also have Ward. Just a really good card for limited in general. Draft and sealed, it's going to be absolutely busted. And we're going to have to scoop it up here. Little disappointed to have to start in blue. It is my least favorite color in the format. The format has played pretty aggressively where the colors like red, black, and green that can get good aggro going consistently are playing incredibly well. Blue definitely falls behind, but Twining Twins is still the strongest card in this pack by a lot. And there's not even any good, like, black, red, or green aggro cards in the pack anyway. So, even if I was hard avoiding blue as much as possible, I think we'd have to take Twining Twins here. For pack 1, pick 2, we've got Charade of Numbing Depths, which I think is a pretty good follow-up, as once again the best card in the pack is at least partially blue. Charade is a super busted card. She's easily splashable, even if we don't go straight up blue-white, since we only need one white symbol to cast her. And she's just a really good card, at least stunning one creature, tapping it down, and drawing us a card by herself. If we have any other tapping, she goes crazy as a huge card draw engine. Pretty easy Charade of Numbing Depths. Other notable cards if you're just trying to get a handle on the format: Hollow Scavenger, one of green's best commons. Threatening to attack and block as a 5/4 makes combat really good for you, really difficult for your opponent. They don't know when to attack in with their 3-power creatures anymore. Often it's just going to be bad for them. So I'm pretty high on Hollow Scavenger as the next best card, just moving towards blue-green here. Shatter the Oath, though, solid black removal, but gonna be an easy charade for me. For pack 1, pick 3, we have some solid white options, as well as decent blue with Johann Stopgap and Quick Study. But taking a charade, we could just head into the blue-white direction, taking a Stockpiling Celebrant here, which has a lot of good synergies with any good enter the battlefield effects. Cards like Prophetic Prism, you can recast them, draw another card off of them later. Cards like Hopeful Vigil are really good with this. That's a 2-mana enchantment that makes a 2/2 Vigilance when it hits the board. So with this, you basically just get to draw another card and scry 2 with that. Cheeky House Mouse, good if you're like super aggro. I don't think we're quite going to get there in blue-white, but we do want to lean that direction. So I think I'm going to take Stockpiling Celebrant here. Could also take Hamlet Glutton, great card at the top end of any green deck's curve. Or Feed the Cauldron for solid cheap removal, but let's take Stockpiling Celebrant. See if we can't become a pretty decent like tempo aggro blue-white deck. And there's the Hopeful Vigil to go with the Stockpiling Celebrant. That is a huge synergy, a huge combo. This is an excellent 2-drop. Think I'm going to take it here, but there's a solid argument for Shrouded Serpent. If we get some Prophetic Prisms into this deck or some Evolving Wilds to be able to splash in this adventure, that adventure plays really well, because if we're against any aggressive deck with rat tokens, those are 1/1s that can't block, this can often kill 2 or 3 creatures and be a creature to play later. So I think Shrouded Shepherd is also really good. Plus, Celebrant does work with that, being able to pick it up and use the adventure again later. Kind of a big deal, so maybe Shepherd, try to splash in Cleave Shadows, but I think I'm just going to take this straight up Hopeful Vigil, Stockpiling Celebrant combo. Really consistent. Both of these are just excellent cards by themselves, too. I think we are fine to do that. Archon's Glory has been a pretty excellent combat trick in this format, with so many different artifacts, enchantments, and tokens sitting around to get bargained. This is very often just 1 mana +2/+2 flying lifelink, which is a huge swing in life totals. It can often even just end the game if your opponent doesn't have a flying blocker. Boom, that's an extra 4 damage out of nowhere, even if you just use it on a 2/3 or a 2/2, so Archon's Glory has played real well. I'm happy to take that. Pack 1, pick 6, Sleight of Hand also plays pretty well as a nice little cantrip, setting up your draws. Although Armory Mice works decently with Hopeful Vigil, since we can trigger the celebration more easily. The issue I have with this is that there's a lot of good removal for killing 1 toughness cards, and I really don't want to play too many of those. Hollow Scavenger and Ratcatcher Trainee, red and green's best little adventure commons for sure. These are some of the best common creatures in those colors, so that is exciting. We are only 2 cards deep into blue. It's possible we could go white-red or white-green here off one of these. I think I'm just going to take Sleight of Hand, though. Let's try it out. I'm going to give blue as many chances as possible when I'm not playing in an arena open or a qualifier play-in or any of that kind of stuff. If I'm playing in a non-competitive event, this is the best time to give blue a shot. If I were in an arena open draft or a qualifier play-in draft or something, probably would have started taking some of these wolves and trying to go like white-green or something here. Maybe the Ratcatcher heading towards red-white. Happy to take a stopgap here, one of blue's better commons if you can trigger Bargain easily on it. Just 2 mana, bounce something, draw a card's a real good deal, but you do have to put in some work towards getting the Bargain. Now here's a Prophetic Prism, which is another card we can sack to Bargain that can help splash in some adventures and off-color cards. So I'm into that. Bantress Transmuter's okay. It works well with Charade, being able to draw us a card when we cast Croaking Curse, but neither halves of the card's very good for its mana cost. Would almost just rather take a Spell Stutter. Little tempo counterspell there, but I'm not super happy with either. I think I'd rather take Spell Stutter, though. Coralsmith, Kellen's Light Blades, neither of these are very good. Rather just take Shatter the Oath, speculate on that if we get pushed towards black. Now we can take Cheeky House Mouse for just the aggro dork in whites. Gallant Pie Wielder's a fine aggro dork. And yeah, blue-white tempo aggro stuff going on here. Looking okay. Yeah, this looks like the most reasonable blue deck that I think I've drafted so far, so this will be our best chance to give blue a spot to shine. It's a Candy Grapple. Oh, what's going on, Arena? Okay, it wasn't highlighting things for a second. That was getting concerning. There's a Candy Grapple, there's a Johann Stopgap, there's a Curiosity, a Stroke of Midnight, Shatter the Oath. The format's so aggressive that Stroke of Midnight has actually been playing pretty poorly. It's great against green decks, not great against anything else, because the fact that you're just giving them something, even if it's just a 1/1 that can still attack you next turn, is kind of rough. So I'm not super high on that. Frostbridge Guard's really good with Charade, but not a super high pick. Should hopefully come back. Curiosity, good with a lot of evasive threats. We don't have a lot of those. Could just take more black removal. I think I'm just going to take another stopgap, but I'm not super pumped about that pick. Now we have another Shrouded Shepherd we could splash in, or a Song of Totentowns we can splash in off of Prism. I think we just splash in the bigger bomb. Huge finisher, just make 1,000,000 creatures, attack in with them like twice in a row, and you're usually going to win the game. So we'll take the Song, splash it in off Prism, and any other fixing we manage to pick up. Picklock Prankster has been playing pretty well, a 3 toughness, 1 power blocker on turn 2. The Vigilance being really helpful as well. Just stops a lot of damage, even if you aren't getting any value from Free the Fae. So I like Picklock Prankster here. But Into the Fae Court also has been looking pretty good. Just huge card draw late in the game. It's a bit slow at 5 mana, but it is powerful if you can support it with enough early blockers to keep you alive until then. Not super into any of this stuff. I guess I get a 3rd Johann Stopgap. It's a bit awkward. Another, well, a first Ginger Brute. I don't think I'm that excited about that. Curve looking very standard here. Looking to load up on more 2s and 1s. Yeah, this is a solid looking tempo deck, but there's nothing great to add to it in this pack, really. Another Archon's Glory, maybe? I don't think I want the 3rd stopgap this early. So I'll just take another Archon's Glory. Ooh, Cursed Courtier. This is a great way to trigger our bargain spells. Gives us an enchantment that we really want to sacrifice. So this is going to make our Johann Stopgap and our Archon's Glories upside, because we want to sacrifice the Cursed roll, so very happy to see that one. Could also splash in decent removal like Feed the Cauldron, or take one of these Frostbridge Guards to go with Charade. But again, Sheree is already good by herself. We don't really need to make her better. And Frostbridge Guard, the amount of mana you're dumping into it is just not good by itself. You need the Sheree to make it good. So for those reasons, I'm not massively high on those Frost Guards. I am pretty high on 3 Blind Mice. We're really going to want to pick up more copies of Hopeful Vigil, ideally. Otherwise, this is just 3 mana for 3/3/3s, then buff the whole board, but even that is good. If we can get a Knight token, like a 2/2 Vigilant Knight, then we'll have a really good time with this, because then we get a 1/1 and then 2/2s with Vigilance and then buff the board. That's where this becomes absurd. We got to take this here, as much as I want another Hopeful Vigil. 3 Blind Mice is a solid saga and a good addition to this deck. Take a Slumber and Keep Guard, which is reasonable with enchantments like Hopeful Vigil, 3 Blind Mice to get scrying and maybe buffing it, but it's not great. I think I'd rather just take the Guard, even though that's not great either. Just for potential Sheree synergies to do decent things. Living Lectern and Protective Parents, neither are going to be exciting, and there's nothing to splash in off the Prisms, so not doing much here. I'll just take the Parents. Now, we do wheel the Frostbridge Guard, so we'll take that. I'm not trying to splash in Shatter the Oath, because it requires 2 black mana to cast, so it's pretty hard to splash it in. Need a lot of black sources. We'll take a Crystal Grotto to help cast the Song of Totentones. That is a strong enough card to work pretty hard to splash, so we're going to take more ways to help do that. We do get the Into the Fey Court, pick 11. Happy to see that. And we're almost at 23 cards. This looks real decent. Real solid tempo stuff going on. So if this isn't what you're supposed to be doing with blue, I have no idea what you are in this format. It does look like we're way heavier into white than blue, but that's because a lot of our blue spells are good non-creature spells like Stopgap, Into the Fey Court, Spell Stutter. We are heavier into white than blue, but not a ton. 12 to 8 here. But I guess that is something to note, is like, what is the best thing to do with blue? Play more of your secondary color? Just play a lot of white alongside it, play a lot of red alongside it. The best way to build a blue deck is not playing that much blue? That would be awkward if it were true. We'll go ahead and take a Regal Bunnicorn now. This is pretty good with the Hopeful Vigil. The 3 Blind Mice, it's excellent with any cards that make 2 non-land permanents off 1 card. By itself, a 2 mana 1/1 at worst is obviously pretty bad, but it doesn't take many other cards to make this very big for its mana cost. So I think the Regal Bunnicorn is actually pretty sweet. Alright, we're pretty heavy into white. I think Grasp of Fate should be pretty good. There is main deckable enchantment removal, which does make it weaker than usual, but I don't have a lot of interaction, a lot of removal. I've got some bounce, I've got a counter spell. That's it, though. So I think we might need Grasp of Fate. We can also take Imidane's Recruiter. I'm already splashing red. 5 mana for 2 2/2s, and then we can slam this down and buff our whole board. Might be decent. I think I'm just going to take the removal, though. Let's grab Grasp of Fate here. Alright, another Johan's Stopgap. Alchemist, Clothier. Gadwick's First Duel. Doesn't do much. Curses something, scries a little bit, maybe duplicates a spell. Probably not. Copy Enchantment also doesn't do much. Not a great pack for us. I'm just going to take another Stopgap. Now we've got another Prophetic Prism. I think I'll scoop that up over a 4th Stopgap, or trying to splash in a Johan without that many instants and sorceries. Johan wants you to have like 10 plus to be great. We've got 9. That's kind of close, but I want to cut some of these. So, probably not a Johan deck. Okay. Could splash in a Neva. That's 2 Prism and a Grotto. That's 3 red sources and 3 black sources. Just splash in a Neva and a Song of Totentones, because they're just much better than like Armory Mice or Living Lectern coming in the deck. Get some splashy stuff going on, I think. There we go, another Hopeful Vigil. Incredible inclusion to this deck, as much as I want to just splash in a cut-in for great removal. Hopeful Vigil is really good with Regal Bunnicorn, 3 Blind Mice, and Stockpiling Celebrant. So we have a lot of great synergies with this card. And that's not even to mention the bargain cards that we have to sacrifice it for value. So Hopeful Vigil is just such a good inclusion to this deck. We gotta slam dunk it there. This pack looks like a whole lot of nothing. I guess Unassuming Sage at least fits into the curve at multiple spots at 2 or 4 mana. We could play a Break the Spell as main deckable enchantment removal because we can shoot our own Vigil or shoot our own Cursed Roll to draw a card. Sure. Probably not going to play Break the Spell, but I don't think I'm playing anything out of that pack. I don't think I'm playing 3 Archon's Glory. We're kind of close to an Intangible Virtue deck. Not close enough, though. Just 3 token producers, really. Double Vigil and 3 Blind Mice. Yeah, that's not enough. The 1 Song of Totentans, but that's already winning the game. We're not doing Virtue things. I'll take a 3rd Archon's Glory, but I'm probably not playing it. Might play a Spreading Seas. Just 2 mana, draw a card, cycle it away, and then you've got some random bargain fodder on the board. Does not seem terrible. None of these cards seem great, though. Not really interested in playing any of this. Let's take something filler. We'll take the 4-drop, I guess. The 4 mana 3/3. Just looks like it fits into the curve. Grab a Johan? I'm not going to splash in Johan. Let's rare draft Fiery Emancipation with the super spicy artwork, too. It's going to be a fun one to build around with in Historic Brawl. Alright, well, this is my favorite blue deck we've drafted so far. I think it's the coolest looking one, but a lot of it is white, so how blue is the deck really? But we are going to play Johan Stopgap. We're absolutely playing Twining Twins. We're playing most of the blue cards we drafted. Well, let's see. This should hopefully be decent. Okay, so there's 17 lands. And let's get our non-land cards into a pile. Song is kind of like a creature finisher. We'll keep that in. I'm not going to count Into the Fey Court as a creature. For the 1/1/1 fairy. Alright, so we have 48 cards, about 14 creatures. But a lot of our creatures are non-creature spells. So we have technically 13, but 2 Hopeful Vigil. So that's like 15. A 3 Blind Mice is like 16. A Song of Totentans at the top is like 17. 0.5, I guess, with Into the Fey Court. As a 1/1 flyer that can't block. I think we can definitely cut a few creatures in this deck. We're not that straight pure aggro. We're more like tempo aggro. And I think a lot of our weakest cards are some of our dirtier creatures. Like Unassuming Sage, 4 mana 3/3 or 2 mana 2/2 without much benefit to it. And then at 3 mana, there was one that I really didn't like. Oh yeah, the Protective Parents. 3 mana 3/2 just doesn't trade super well. You do get the Young Hero roll, which I like a lot on future attacks, but you get it really late into the game and inconsistently, so I don't love that. The rest of these are solid. At worst, yeah, we can run pretty much every other creature here, but let's drop those 2. And that's going to put us at 11 creatures, plus 2 Hopeful Vigil, so 13, plus 3 Blind Mice, so 14. Plus Song of Totentans, so 15.5 with the Into the Fey Court. My apologies for the text message there. So cutting 6 non-land cards. I do like the stopgap idea of turn 3 or turn 4, doing this for 2 mana alongside another 2-drop. That also makes me want to keep a lot of 2-drops in here, which is why I'm not cutting any other creatures really. So let's keep the stopgaps for sure. The Archon's Glories I really want to keep as well. Break the Spell still feels pretty narrow. So I think I'll drop that. We kind of have to keep Prisms in with Neva and Song. Gotta keep Grasp in for our lack of removal. And the problem is that leaves 3 cards to cut. 3 Archon's Glory is probably a lot. Maybe 3 Stopgap as well. So we could go 2 Stopgap, 1 Glory, something like that, and then cut 2 of these. Our curve doesn't get that high, plus Sleight of Hand can dig for a land out of the top 2 if we have the blue source. So I could drop Spreading Seas, Spell Stutter. Spell Stutter I think is worth dropping because it's hard for us to hold up extra mana. I don't think counterspells play super well in here. But then I can actually cut a land instead of sleight of hand, which means I get to put one card back in, the second Archon's Glory or the second stopgap. Or sorry, the third stopgap. And let's go for 2/2 on it. Let's go 2 Glory, 2 stopgap. This is just a really flexible combat trick. We can save a creature. We can win a race with lifelink. We can find lethal out of nowhere with flying. I think Archon's Glory looks really nice in here. So we run all these and we cut a land for a sleight of hand. Drop a plane so we have as many blue sources as possible for casting sleight of hand turn 1 every time. But I do have a double white spell that's more important than my double blue spells. But hopefully Crystal Grotto Prophetic Prisms help with those. I also just have a lot more aggro white cards than blue ones. So many more white cards that need to be cast turn 1, 2, 3. Alright, a little awkward to not be able to always turn 1 sleight of hand if I'm cutting a land for it. Because that's what makes it so easy to cut a land for a card like sleight of hand. Is because, like, well, I know I can always play this when I draw it and turn it into a land the vast majority of the time. But if we don't have enough blue sources that we know we can always do that in our opener, then it might not be worth it. So I think it's really easy and really reasonable to do that when you have like 10 plus blue sources. If you're on a 10-7 split, pretty much always cut sleight of hands for lands. Same with cards like Brave the Wilds. If you have 10 plus green sources, you can always just cut Brave the Wilds 1 for lands. That is the 1 green mana, search your library for a basic, put it into your hand in this set. But you do start making things pretty risky when you only have 7 natural blue sources, because then you can be in these positions where you have like a 2 planes opener with Cheeky House Mouse, Hopeful Vigil, Gallant Pie Wielder, something like that, where you're like, well, I have to keep this and curve out. But then you also have some blue spells, and you have the risk of not drawing the 3rd land, and just having an island would have been better than having a sleight of hand in many hands like that. So that is the concern there. That is worth considering. But we don't have that many blue spells, so if I have a hand like that, I'll just play white spells and maybe be okay. So definitely taking a risk cutting an island for sleight of hand, but I think I'm still going to do it. And we're calling it a deck here. And I did just say all the negatives of cutting an island for sleight of hand. Forgot to mention the positives here. Obviously, the positives is that it is a way better draw later in the game than an island would be. Because if you draw it early in the game, ideally, with a blue source, you turn it into a land. If you draw it late in the game, you get to turn it into an actual spell off the top 2, which is significantly better than top decking another land. So I do want to mention that. I don't want to just be like, here's why it's terrible, and then I'm going to put it in my deck anyway. I should mention why I am still going to take that risk and put it in the deck here. So now we'll call it a deck there. All right, here's a look at our final deck list for today. We're a blue-white tempo deck at the core with a couple Prophetic Prism and a Crystal Grotto to splash in some balmy stuff. So got a solid curve of creatures with a lot of 2-drops thanks to Frostbridge Guard, Regal Bunnycorn, Picklock Prankster, and a couple Hopeful Vigils. Solid amount of 3-drops with Cursed Courtier, Gallant Pie Wielder, Stockpiling Celebrant, and 3 Blind Mice. So we can go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop a good amount at a time. And we've got plenty solid tempo plays to back them up, try to slow down our opponent and beat them down with these cards. We have stuff like Johann's Stopgap to bounce their creature, draw us a card. We have Archon's Glory to trade up with our combat tricks into clearing the board. And then, of course, off of the splash is where we have the bombs to try to really finish the game. Mainly the Song of Totentons to make a really wide board state to kill our opponent quickly, but we also have Neva, Stalked by Nightmares, as a really good value play, letting us pick up one of our creatures or enchantments to play again later, and hopefully that can get us to those final few points of damage there. So really solid blue-white tempo deck here. We also have some great synergies with Hopeful Vigil. Lots of great ways to use this. So for 2 mana, we're getting a 2/2 Night token with Vigilance, plus this enchantment sitting on the board. So thanks to that, with cards like Regal Bunnycorn that care about having multiple permanents on the board, that's going to play super well, but it also gives us the enchantment to sacrifice to bargain cards like Archon's Glory and Johann's Stopgap. It's also a great card to pick back up to Stockpiling Celebrant. It'll single-handedly trigger Celebration for Gallant Pie Wielder to get double strike, and it'll give us a bigger creature token to duplicate with 3 blind mice. So we're also a huge hopeful vigil synergy deck, and I think most white decks are, honestly. One of the best things going for the color is this very, very nice common with so many different ways to use it. So lots of great stuff going on with the deck, and I'm pretty excited to see how it does as we head into the gameplay. Here we are with a real spicy opening hand. Regal Bunnycorn into 3 blind mice can get a wide board state and make this like a 2-mana 4/4 eventually. So we'll see how things play out. But we also have that turn 1 sleight of hand over a 3rd land, and we can just turn it into our 3rd land now. I don't remember how many double white versus double blue cards we have. We have 1 double white card and 2 double blue. But I also have a lot more white in this hand where I could want to cast a white spell and hold up an Archon's Glory. So I think I'm still going to take the next white source over the blue source here. Again, so later in the game I might be able to cast a white spell and still have Glory up. I think that is just immediate guaranteed. That is just an immediate guaranteed way to use an extra white mana here versus just speculating on drawing a double blue card. This is still technically speculative, but I do think it is more likely. Alright, Shrouded Shepherd, turn 2 for our opponent, just a 2-mana 2/2. Uh-oh. Hit another white source. Didn't want to see that. Play a 2-mana 1/1 Regal Bunnycorn. Let's go. Value. Such a great stat line. How will they ever deal with that? They are on black, white, and red, have naturally hit all their colors here. Turn 3. Drawn to a Stockpiling Celebrant, which is really good with 3 blind mice. So we can pick it up and get 3 more mice out of it later if we need to, but also just giving the board vigilance might be good enough to let it pop off. Alright, well we're certainly casting 3 blind mice here, and that's going to make Bunnycorn a 3/3 to attack in or hold up on blocks. I'm going to send in the attack here. With the Archon's Glory, I think I should just be racing, because we can get so much random life gain at some point to ruin their math. If they try to keep out racing us and just don't hold up blockers. Merry Bards is a great play here. Makes one of their cards a young hero to keep getting bigger. Yeah, they're going to keep racing. Let's do it. I think we can win a race with cards like Stopgap, Archon's Glory, Charade. It's going to be a little difficult because they're definitely fighting back with cards like Merry Bards here, but now I hit them for 4. Drop Charade to slow them down and draw a card, probably. Actually hit them for 5 if I cast Charade pre-combat. Stop the Vermin from attacking back. They hit us for 6 on board. That is interesting. What's the best way to use mana here? Is it 4-drop and then a 3-drop and a 2-drop next turn? Or can we go Stopgap for 4 mana? No, if we're going to do Stopgap, we'd rather just Charade. So yeah, the other option is Celebrant plus Archon's Glory. Next turn, just Charade. And we won't pick anything up with Celebrant this turn. I think Charade's super reasonable here. Let's do that. We got to do it pre-combat, whatever we do. Lock down the Vermin, no more young hero. Next turn. They already don't have a good block, so we don't have to tap down the Bards. So 12 to 12, they get the first attack here since they are on the play. But again, Archon's Glory, Stopgap, stuff like this, I feel like our odds of racing are pretty good. Plus, eventually giving the whole board vigilance, that's going to be a massive swing in the future. Take my 3 and go to 9. There's an Armory Mice. Get another mouse here. Now I can cast Stopgap without sacrificing a permanent or sacrificing a mouse token. I could play Celebrant and Stopgap. I don't think there's anything I want to pick up with Celebrant, so just be as a 3/2, but I think that'd be fine. We're at 9 life. We probably survive if I just play Celebrant and hold it up as a blocker. Worth sacrificing a mouse to cast Stopgap? Probably not right now. They have enough power to kill Bunnycorn on blocks, but only if they lose all 3 of their blockers, so Yeah, let's play the Celebrant and just hold up Archon's Glory. Okay, you may. Okay, so let's target this and say decline. There we go. Yeah, I think I just send in Bunnycorn, hold up all my blocks, and next turn get the big Vigilance attack and win off that. Because I can also put a stop on my main phase. Put the Saga's trigger on the stack, respond to the Saga by bargaining it away to Archon's Glory. So I don't even have to spend a card to do that. They are going to chump block with their 2/2, which buffs both their vermins, which is pretty nice. Would prefer not to have to Archon's Glory on blocks, but it's possible we will. Oh my god! Third Voracious Vermin, these things are going to get so huge with all those +1/+1 counters. Armory Mice gets the Celebration buff here. Obviously going to get our massive attack next turn. If we're alive. So let's make sure we're alive. We're at 9 right now. Attacking us for 6. One white, 1 red. How much burn is there in this format? 2 mana for 3 damage? I don't think there's a ton. There's that rare with a 3 mana adventure. I think there's a small enough amount of things that can kill me here that I just take this to crack back with everybody. And of course get the Archon's Glory thing. Oh, that's gross. Glass Casket for the Bunnycorn. That's extremely disappointing. Okay. No Bunnycorn attack next turn then. So we have to Archon's Glory the Celebrant for the life gain. But that'll still be a real big deal. Draw for turn is just a land, not a good draw. Bargain on Celebrant, sack 3 Blind Mice because it's dying anyway. That's a gain 6. I could stopgap the Glass Casket, but then they just recast it next turn anyway. So it's probably best to stopgap the only vermin that can block without dying on one of these mice. So let's stopgap one of those. How many 1-drops do I have left? I have 2 1-white mana cards in the deck. So I should tap out of blue and hold a white up. Find a Grasp of Fate. That's good for the future. Alright, here's the free attack. Put them to 1. Wipe out 2 vermin and go back up to 9. Real good attack still. We had the Bunnycorn, we would just be killing them here if they didn't have Glass Casket, but this is still looking pretty good for us. Quite a race here. If they don't draw into another creature, their maximum number of blockers is going to be 3, because all the rat tokens can't block. Send in the rats since they can't block anyway. If they don't draw into an additional creature here, Grasp of Fate kills them. See what that last card in hand is. Not a sorcery speed creature. They pass the turn. Let's go for it. Grasp of Fate on the vermin. That's gonna be game. They missed on their final draw. That's gonna find us lethal. We start things off 1-0 in a very close game as we head into game 2. And here we are for game 2. Bunnycorn into Hopeful Vigil means we'll be attacking for 3 on turn 3. We also have that turn 1 Sleight of Hand again. Sleight of Hand has really been paying off so far. Pick up another Hopeful Vigil over Neva because we're real far away from casting her. And double Vigil to go with the Bunnycorn could be incredible if they don't just immediately throw a removal spell at Bunnycorn here on their turn 2. They don't immediately throw removal at Bunnycorn, but that 3/1 body means we're not attacking into that. I can play a Pie Wielder, though, which is excellent at blocking and attacking into the mice, and lets us get Celebration going with these Hopeful Vigils to be attacking as a double striker. So that was an incredible draw there to get the Pie Wielder down against the Armory Mice. There's a Merry Bards, which is just a 3/2. I'm liking how things are looking here. We're about to do some gross things with these Hopeful Vigils. So we're going to cast one right now to trigger Celebration, get Double Strike on the Pie Wielder. Double Striking attacker's great here, 4/4 attacker's great here. They could double block and kill Bunnycorn. I think we're cool with that. They could double block and kill Pie Wielder. I think we're cool with that as well. Do I play the Prankster pre-combat, so if they want to kill Pie Wielder, they take 5? I think I do. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to kill their whole board and hit them for 4 here, minimum. Oh my god, no blocks. Or they just don't block, and then we hit for 1,000,000. And it'll be real hard for them to outrace us. I guess we'll have to see what they have coming up. Maybe they have a real good uncommon or rare that I'm not thinking of that can help win this. Princess Takes Flight's an excellent start. With anything that bargains that away, that can be real gross because they can permanently kill our creature. They are going to send in for 6. I'm still racing. I'll take that all. Charade's the draw. Charade's much better when I can actually tap something down. Because if I target a tapped creature, I don't draw the card. So I think I'd rather Hopeful Vigil and just get Double Strike on Pie Wielder here. Send in the team. If our opponent has their own Archon's Grace or whatever, the 1-mana combat trick that lets them bargain away Princess Takes Flight, that is how they win this game. Make the mice a 7-power lifelinker this turn, and keep the Bunnycorn exiled forever, because they don't make it to Chapter 3 of the Saga. So really hoping not to see that. They're at 4 here, so I think we don't block. I think the one way they win this game is that combat trick. We don't see that. We should very likely find lethal next turn. They haven't cast it yet. There's the concession. Okay. Do find a nice victory there, but that game was a lot closer than it looked, and it looked kind of close. 6 life to 4 life. Well, 6-0 in the end. But all they needed was an Archon's Vigil for things to be going much worse. Again, we would have taken 2 more, so we'd be at 4, and they would have gained 7. They'd be at like 11 there. And we would never get back the Bunnycorn if the game went long. So, solid luck there to not see any bargain at the end of the curve, but we're starting things 2-0. Pretty happy with that as we head into Game 3. Here we are for Game 3, Prophetic Prism, going to be putting in a lot of work here. Going to be getting a lot of mileage out of that card. I think the hand is a keep, though, if barely. Definitely going to be our slowest hand so far because we have to spend time doing Prophetic Prism things for mana. Well, maybe not. Playing against red-black, but they didn't play anything yet. Could be nice for us. I'm going to start with Hopeful Vigil, so that if I draw into any bargain or stockpiling Celebrant cards, those are active. Still nothing turn 3. Really weirdly slow for red-black in this format. Probably gonna play Prophetic Prism at a 2-1 here, because a 2-1 is not much worse than the 2-2 Frostbridge Guard. I guess if they have Rat out and Flick a Coin and stuff, it is. But, like getting this Prophetic Prism out of the way, while still impacting the board just as much in terms of power, even if it is less toughness. This could be bad for us, though. There's a lot of 1 toughness removal they could use on it. Yeah, flick a coin. Pretty fantastic deal for them. Kill one of our creatures, draw a card, and get a treasure. Pretty gross. This is why I'm really not a fan of 1 toughness creatures in this format. There's a lot of cards like flick a coin that are just pretty bad if your opponent doesn't play any 1 toughness cards, but then incredibly good if they do. So if you can blank those cards just by not playing 1 toughness creatures, I think generally it's a good idea to do so. Alright, probably jam out the Twining Twins. Worst case scenario, when they get blown up, we can pick them up with Neva later. I guess the worst case scenario is that they exile the twins. There are some black removal spells in the format that exile, as well as some red ones, but they'd have to stack up probably multiple burn spells to exile them with a Torch the Towers. The ward here looking pretty spicy, because even if they do have the removal for the twins, the ward is probably going to make it so they can't afford to kill the twins and play a creature this turn at least. So they're going to drop a Callous Sellsword and put a Wicked Roll onto it to make it a 3/3. Fair enough. Let's just jam in for 4. Honestly, probably just draw a few cards, make another flyer here. I'd like to leave Neva for picking up twins later, and drawing 3 and making a 1/1 flyer is definitely more impactful than just playing a 2/2 or bouncing their 3/3 right now. Very nice draws. We get another Hopeful Vigil and a Sleight of Hand. And a land. So we can have 6 mana up next turn. Okay, they do have the Exile removal spell. That's a pretty massive bummer. Oh, how I wish that was in my grave. But we're fine. We're ahead in cards, getting that draw 3 to go here. Okay, 6 mana to play around with. Can't pick up anything but a 2/1, so I don't think we're playing Neva right now. Kind of want to just slide a hand, see if we find anything more impactful in the immediate future. These are definitely not, but at least we're getting them to the bottom of our library. Five mana. Just cast a Guard and a Vigil. Get some creatures down. We've got enough cards in our hand that we're definitely not at the point yet where we want to scry with a Vigil during our upkeep. We're likely to just do this during our opponent's end step at some point, but it is important to keep in mind you can sacrifice a Vigil to its own ability for 3 mana. So if you're in a position where you might need to do that, make sure to put a stop on your upkeep so Arena doesn't just slide right past it. Could attempt the double block here. Don't think that's a great idea with 6 mana up on their board, though. All it takes is 1 instant speed removal to make that go disastrously poorly for me. Just a Torch the Tower or a Heart Flame Slash. Yeah, that would have been a terrible block. Alright, Heart Flame Duelist is super, super gross. Any removal spell adventures are just disgustingly good cards. So, kill a creature and play a 3/1 here, get a massive 2-for-1. We hate to see that. We've just drawn into yet another land. We are flooding out a bit, but I've drawn some extra cards, so it makes sense I'll find some extra lands here. Still nothing great to pick up with Neva. I really am not a big fan of stopgapping any of their permanents. They both have adventures here. At least Burn Together is not that good of an adventure. I could stopgap my own Hopeful Vigil just to draw the card and get another 2/2. That honestly doesn't seem horrible. It's kind of weird, but I guess that could be the play here. And let's also bargain 1 away to scry before I draw. Try to find some gas. Gallant Pie Wielder. Not super gaseous, but worth drawing here. Perfect blocker for the Duelist. Kind of wish I didn't have enough mana to play Pie Wielder and Vigil in the same turn, because I'd love to have Vigil for Celebration later, but it's definitely the right play to just drop both of these down. And use Neva to make sure that I can celebrate again next turn. Definitely supposed to be mana efficient here. Torch the tower with lifelink on our 2/2. That's cool with me, because now they can't use that on the Pie Wielder, which is a pretty big deal. Alright, so we're going to play Neva and pick up a Hopeful Vigil, probably. Still real bummed out that they exiled my dork. Alright, free blocks are free. Go down to 11. They drop a Conceited Witch, drawn to an Archon's Glory. That's going to be a fantastic trick. I could hit them for 4 and gain 4 if I want. Want to just do that immediately? Probably not. Pick up the Hopeful Vigil. I could... Ooh, I could go all in here. I don't know if this is right. I'm gonna go all in, though. Big Pie Wielder. Nice try. Nice try. That's still pretty good for them, because it stops a lot of this damage, but I get to save the Pie Wielder and keep the House Mouse. That's really annoying. Scry 2 again? Or sack Prism? I could draw into Song of Totentans as a finisher. Let's Scry 2 again. Could also sack the Spirit. Be okay. Another Prism. I mean, it cycles. I draw another card when I play it, and that helps celebrate. I'll actually keep that. Prism Bunnicorn? Sure, we cast Prism and Bunnicorn next turn. Boom. Celebrate again next turn. Cool. So now I've celebrated this turn, I gain a bunch of life and hit them. Not as good as it would have been if they didn't have interaction, but I think it still played out fine. And next turn with Prism into Bunnicorn, I'm guaranteed to celebrate again. Totally forgot about the bonus text on Neva. I'm so used to just picking something up and having a 2/2 menace. That, I guess the other part's actually pretty good in this deck. Hilda's Crown of Winter is incredible in literally any deck. Icy Manipulator's back, baby, and Pie Wielder's never going to hit them again. We've got other cards to hit them with. We have a better board state than them. We're in a good position here. Trigger Celebration, force them to tap down the Pie Wielder. And our Bunnicorn's insane. They're going to have to start tapping that down instead. Cool. Send in the 1/1. I could send in the whole board. Neva probably gets in. We lose both of our 2 power creatures just to hit them for 3 more damage, though. Doesn't feel great. If I attack all 3 of these, those are their best blocks for sure. I don't think it's worth it. Also, don't think it's worth it to just send in Neva and trade into Sellsword, because our other 2 power creatures are still blanked from there. So let's just poke for 1. Pass from there. Well, that card's disgusting. At least they don't have the white source. But there goes our flyer. Our Bunnicorn is much smaller now as well. Cool. Top deck the Courtier after they killed my 1/1s. Pretty good time to draw that card, because that's 2 permanents for Bunnicorn and 2 permanents for Pie Wielder. So that's a great top deck. Now we move to combat, they tap the Bunnicorn, and we get in with the Pie Wielder. Actually, the Pie Wielder doesn't even attack that well here, because they can double block it, and I only kill 1 of the 2 creatures. So at this point, we just attack with Pie Wielder and Neva. Oh, they're going to exile the Bunnicorn instead. Pretty nasty. I guess they could even just single block the Pie Wielder with a 3/3. Yeah, Pie Wielder no longer a great attacker. We're just not attacking at all then. Our only attack is to send in Neva and Pie Wielder, trade one of them into one of our opponent's creatures. That would help the other one get in the future. But the other one just keeps getting tapped down by the Crown of Winter. Yeah, I think we have to just wait. I am not loving it. The Red Cap Thief off the top. And that casts their 2/2. It's a pretty good scry. Also could get them an attack in here if they want to be a little bold. I think it'd be super reasonable for them to do so. Go for a 4/5 menace attack. Double block with Neva and Pie Wielder. They only kill one of the two. That's the same as if I was attacking in on them. Probably just take it though, because I don't really have future attacks after this one. Whoa, that's a draw. That's a major draw. So 2 permanents, trigger Celebration, force them to tap Pie Wielder. That part doesn't matter so much. But getting more Vigilant Knights, and then if this reaches Chapter 4, it probably just kills them. So we play that and we are chillin'. Which is funny, because we are getting iced down by the Crown of Winter. So it kind of makes sense that we're just chilling. Please do not top deck removal for my 2/2. They have exactly 1 turn to do so. They drew their card. We'll see if it is. If they miss the removal for the 2/2 now, though, I get a copy of the 2/2 next turn. And then they'd have to kill 2 of them to stop me from making another one, which would be a lot harder for them to do. 3 Blind Mice looking great here. Looking like a rare for sure. Ooh, tap down aggressively here. Just draw 2. They're just digging. Alright. No more Crown of Winter shenanigans for us. Happy to see that. But yeah, the card draw aspect of the Crown of Winter is also pretty good. I didn't even realize you don't have to tap it to draw the cards. That's kind of nuts. So you can get the free tap out of it and then draw the cards. It's very good. If they have instant speed removal for the 2/2, it's going to be gross here. Whoa there, friend. What are you doing? Deciding to just die on the crackback? Take 7, they play a blocker, go block, block, take 4. Okay, they don't die on the crackback. It is actually a pretty good attack, thanks to tapping down Neva aggressively rather than defensively. I go to 4 life. 4 life is still pretty alive. I don't love this, but I'm just going to not block. Grand Ball Guest. That's it. Ooh, Stopgap. Stopgap's a huge draw here, too. So, copy our Knight. Beautiful, they didn't have the instant speed removal. Now I can Stopgap sacrificing my Curse token, which means Neva gets a +1/+1 counter and scries before I draw the card. And we slow down the Ball Guest here, because we definitely don't want to pick up the Shepherd or any of the cards with good ETBs. So we sacrifice our Cursed roll on the Grand Ball Guest. Scry 1, then draw a card. Find the song. Oh my lord. We find the song. They have 1 blocker up. You gotta do what you gotta do, baby. 6/1/1s with haste. Plus our Knight gets haste? Oh yeah, alright. Well, that was just our deck doing some gross things in the top deck where we had a lot of scry going on between our Hopeful Vigils, our Neva, the card draw from the stopgaps. So we got to dig real far and find just 2 of our really great rares there to close out the game. Looks like the deck is pretty resilient in these long games with these top deck war positions, so actually really liking how things are going, but it is hard not to when you are 3-0 to start things off. So without further ado, let's head into game number 4, undefeated so far. Here we are for game 4, undefeated so far. How I wish I could keep this hand. If I want to be real bold and cross my fingers for a Plains as the first draw of the game, I can keep it. This looks unbeatable if we just had one Plains. But it falls flat without top decking the Plains immediately. I guess there's a tiny bit of time to do it. Because we're on the play, if I top deck the Plains in the first 2 draws, it's pretty good, but there's only 8 white sources in here. I guess there's 9 because the Crystal Grotto if I play off curve, which I would be doing anyway if I draw it as my second draw. There's no shot that keeping this is right. I'm just really sad about it. The Vigil, Bunny Core, and Pie Wielder combos. Actually, all these cards combo together incredibly. This works great with these cards to make 2 permanents. The Bunny Corns with the 2 permanents. God. Alright, this is even worse. Somehow worse. There's one castable spell this time, but the spells are way weaker. Literally just the worst hand. That's disappointing. Is this mold to 5 material? Honestly feel like it is. This is completely unkeepable, so we have to mold to 4, and I despise my life. Oh my god. Well, we definitely can't mulligan at this point. But that is really disappointing. Just how poorly we've drawn our mana this game. I guess if I knew the future, I would have just kept the 7, but we probably lose this game no matter which hand I keep at this rate. On the mulligan to 4, I probably have to desperately hope that there's an instant or sorcery in my top 4. So we can maybe recoup some of that lost card advantage. And of course, our opponent mulligans into the Dream Curve. Emberth Veteran into Ash. If they celebrate turn 3, the game's completely over. Great. We miss on the Prankster. At least we find the Plains. So I might be playing Twining Twins turn 4. I got the 1 drop. Ooh, they do have the Young Hero roll to trigger Celebration. Well, that's it then. Oh my god. We don't hit the land for Twining Twins. Sleight of Hand can turn into the land. There we go. So a non-token creature returns to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So it gives me a free block. I can block and Swift Spiral, or I can just play Hopeful Vigil. If I try to block and Swift Spiral and then they have cheap removal to kill Prankster in response, then Twins goes to the grave. I don't think I can take that risk here. But I also don't think I can win at all, no matter what. Because they celebrate one more time, this is a 5/5, and Twining Twins doesn't even deal with it. And we're completely out of cards because we mold to 4. The Battle Mouse even just makes their hand cheaper to cast. The second spell they cast each turn, plus 1 less. Oh, if they had another red source, that would have been so gross there. They could use Pest Problem and cast the Ratcatcher itself in 1 turn. Well, gotta kill that Battle Mouse if we can. Double block plays around a +1/+1 trick, but for 1 white mana it's +2/+2, which would then kill both my creatures and I wouldn't kill the mouse, so I don't double block here. Now I can double block and kill Ash at the cost of my Twining Twins, if they don't have removal, and if they don't celebrate. they do either of those things, we're straight up dead. And even if they don't do any of that, we're dead. Yeah, awesome. Okay. That was not a great game of Magic for us there. Arena kind of chose the winner of that game before a single turn was played, unfortunately. 3-1 heading into Game 5. Here we are for Game 5, 3-1, back at it again with the rough mana. 1 Plains means Bunnicorn into 3 Blind Mice or Pie Wielder. All these cards working really well together again. Really don't want a repeat of last game, but this has that same risk of keeping it and not finding a white source and just dying and not playing Magic that way instead. This time we're on the draw, though. So I will make 2 draw steps before I need the white source. 3 before I really, really need it. I'm going to keep it on the draw this time. But now I might get punished in the complete opposite direction. We'll see. Hopefully our luck is not to the effect where we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. Where if I mulligan, I just keep getting monocolored hands till I mulligan into nothing. And if I don't mulligan, I also just don't draw the second source anyway. Hopefully it's not one of those days, because I was pretty happy with our 3-0 start here, and I think this deck has been playing out really, really well. It's been quite fun. The deck itself is good. The mana base is the biggest issue with it, but it's not this bad as we've seen it be with the triple mulligan into monocolored hand again in the next game of Magic. And there you go. Miss on 2 Plains hits here. Let's see what we get on the third draw. At least our opponent is curving out a little less good this time. Last game our opponent went 1 drop, 2 drop, 2 drop, which is gross. Applying pressure with a creature every single turn. At least this opponent didn't have a 1 drop. But that's our 3rd island out of 7 before our first Plains out of 8. And it might be another quick decision from Magic Arena today. The Questing Druid for the draw 2. Oh my god. Till the end of their next end step, if they get a Mana Dork on board, I'm just going to die to Realm Scorcher. But they didn't get a Mana Dork. Oh, this end step counts. Cool. Well, there's our 4th out of 7 islands before our 1st out of 8 plains, so we're having a very fun time today. And that's literally just game. Moving on to round 6. Here we are for game 6 with both colors of mana, baby. We're gonna play some Magic in this game. This is a snap keep after how these past couple games have gone. Turn 2 Hopeful Vigil. Turn 3 Hopeful Vigil, probably, honestly. And whatever we draw into, we'll just see where it lines up with the curve here. We're on the draw here, so we could just get aggroed out. Let's hope for that to not happen. Would be super bummed out to have an opponent just go 1, 2, 3, 4 curve on us. Our first game of actual Magic in a little while. They're doing it so far. Luckily the 2-drop isn't a creature. It's Bowls of Porridge, but the Bowls of Porridge are good against my 2-drops. They can just use it to blow one of them up and then tap them down later and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I probably just play Hopeful Vigil first pretty much every time. They use the Porridge to kill it, that's fine. Same difference if I play the Frostbridge Guard. Voracious Vermin. So no Porridge yet. And no attack with Gingerbrute. And now the Vigilant Knight can attack in while still holding up decent blocks. Love to see that. Drop a Courtier here to be mana efficient, even though the 1/1 lifelinker is not a super good body. A 2/2 is also not a crazy good body on this board anyway. So let's get the Courtier down. I'm gonna play poorly if they have 1 damage or 1 toughness removal. But if not, this sets up to make a lot of our draws pretty good. All our bargain cards again. Or stockpiling Celebrant, that kind of stuff. Send in the Vermin and a 1/1. So they could respond to me blocking Vermin by using the Bowls of Porridge to kill my other creature to make Vermin a 3/2. But they need another trick for Vermin to beat my 2/2 Knight. They have to use the Bowls to kill the Courtier to make it a 3/2, and then also... That's only when their creatures die. Okay, if it's only when their creatures die, I think I actually block with Courtier. Rather have them use a trick to kill that than use a trick to kill my 2/2. And probably don't use a trick to kill both unless they have like -1/-1 to the whole board. I think this looks reasonable to me. I guess they could sack Gingerbrute. Did not realize that until just now. Okay, cool. They had a trick anyway. So we're good. Alright. That would have went really bad for me if they just ate Gingerbrute and just kept their double strike trick for something else. I think I preferred them doing it that way. Alright. I don't really want to exile anything right now. At least the Bowls of Porridge are gone. Let's just make some 2/2s. They can play a 5/4 Menace soon, but then I can exile it. So not worried about that one. We're still at 18. We can block the rats all day long. Yeah, we're chill. We're chilling. We're hanging out with our opponent here. Let's grasp the two-headed hunter and drop a 1/3 vigilance flyer. And then draw some cards from Into the Fey Court next turn and try to have that be the win con, just getting us ahead. Chip in with Vigilance Dorks and then find the card advantage lead with Into the Fey Court. Totentons, that's really bad for me. They can give any of their attacking rats Death Touch, and anytime any of their non-token creatures die, they get another rat. That is spooky, for sure. Okay, let's hit them with the flyer only now and draw some cards. I'm going to draw the cards pre-combat because all of our white 1-drops are combat tricks, or most of them. 2 of the 3 ones that we could draw into. There's one of them, Archon's Glory. So now I have that up while I attack. We find a Prophetic Prism, we probably win this game because we just drew our great off-color cards. If we don't find a Prophetic Prism, we probably lose this game because now instead of a draw 3, we gotta draw 1, which is significantly worse. So we really need to find a Prophetic Prism or a Crystal Grotto, so there's 3 really live draws to hit. Did we do any scrying? No. Haven't done any scrying yet. That's huge. Our opponent has their own card draw. That's going to be really big for them. They look at the top 4, put any of those back on top. Rest into the grave. They draw 2, lose 2. Alright, so they pick the best 2 out of the top 4 to draw into those. Dream Spoilers. So as they cast spells during our turn, they also give something -1/-1, so they could find a free kill on our 1/1 flyer. Could sack a Hopeful Vigil during my upkeep. Don't think I do that here. I think I just hold the mana up. We find a 3 Blind Mice. Now we can start sacking these during their end step. It's a really good draw if they don't kill my Vigilant Knight. We are really hoping they don't have a trick. Tap a creature, eat a Gingerbrute or a Bowl of Porridge here. Am I supposed to aggressively use Archon's Glory here? I don't know if I am. I can use it aggressively, trying to kill Dream Spoilers. But if they have any instance, it's going to play really badly for me. But it's going to play real badly if I try to use it defensively too when they have instance. Let's get our free attack on board in. Make the block. Do I just say sure here? And then if they have a trick they try to use it, we can try to negate it? No, because if they have the trick to use, I can't really stop anything about it. Yeah, no, I just do it. Try to get the flyer out of here. Get some scry going. Looking for prophetic prisms. Being able to scry for only 1 mana here is nice. Twining Twins is great. But an island is not a prophetic prism, so we'll put that on the bottom. No. Oh wait, no, we still kill Dream Spoilers. We just trade now. That's chill. I mean, they kill the 1/1 for free, which is good, but they were going to do that anyway. Because they were going to draw a card, kill a 1/1 here. Okay, that did not go as poorly as it could have. That's okay. Since I know I'm drawing into a Twining Twins, I think we'll be okay. Their ground troops are getting scary, though. Not super into that. Mainly the vermin is just getting big. They can give the vermin or the rat death touch off of Totentans. It's a no-block situation then. Take 5. Go to 16. Glad we've got breathing room here. With our life total. Really trying to survive. Till 3 blind mice pops off. Please tell me they didn't draw into instant speed removal. Counter one of my chapters. That would be gross. Sick. No instant speed removal. There's really no purpose in Swift Spiraling right now. We have no good attacks. Yep. There's Twining Twins. Don't like that they still have access to all chapters of the Porridge. I mean, they don't have the damage, but they still have tap or gain life, which makes attacking and blocking math really hard here. Oh, they're just going to immediately tap this down? That cannot possibly be good for me. They're going to be doing some shenanigans trying to find lethal. Frostbridge Guard, showing off how janky it is. 3 mana is just so much to hold up. That rarely do you get anything off the Frostbridge Guard, which is what makes it one of the weaker commons. But we've seen a lot of games where we've had Frostbridge Guards and just never having the 3 mana up for it. Sir Ginger. Even wider board state, that's very good. Probably trade a mouse for a rat, right? They have no onboard tricks at this point. Could even give up on 3 blind mice doing anything super crazy. Try to trade into the vermin. With 4 power here. I can't try to trade with 3 power because then they sack Ginger Brute in response and it's a 4 toughness card, so I can't just go Knight Mouse on the vermin. I can go Guard Knight on vermin. Let's try to kill the vermin. I'm not going to try to kill the vermin and the rat at the same time because then I'm 1 removal spell away from having nothing for 3 blind mice, including sorcery speed removal. This way they have to have instant speed removal to counter my next chapter. Otherwise, I trade this off, and then they just play a sorcery speed removal on my knight, and I don't get anything out of chapter 3 of 3 blind mice. Okay. Witchstalker Frenzy's kind of chill. Now we know they're not using it on the twins. Still stopped all the damage. Drawn to a stockpiling celebrant. That's some spice. Pick up the Vigil, scry 2, see if we find a prism, recast Vigil, have more blockers up. Chip it in for 4 a turn with the twins. It's feeling pretty good. So there's not really a reason to celebrate pre-combat. Next turn we get our big Vigilant attack with everybody if we want to. Which I don't think is really going to matter unless I scry into an incredible draw. Mostly just going to hit them harder with twins. I guess I could pick up Grasp of Fate, give them back the Hunter, and exile something else, but that doesn't seem good. Scry to Archon's Glory Plains. They don't have the tap ability anymore, so Archon's Glory is big and scary. We definitely get rid of the Plains. Should I ditch Archon's Glory still looking for Prism, or should I keep that trying to maybe find lethal? Attacking for 5 in the sky already. Put them to 4, plus 3 from Porridge and 3 from Gingerbrute, and 3 from Sir Ginger. Okay, we're actually really far from lethal. But Archon's Glory during combat's also good. It's a hard decision, but I'm going to get rid of Glory because we're actually like really far from lethal. And I think we already have decent blocks and attacks without just using it as a combat trick kind of thing. Okay, gain the life, get a scry off Sir Ginger, make Sir Ginger a 4/2. Yeah, we're just looking for prisms and grottos. 3 cards on the bottom, 18 cards, 3 of which are kind of like insta-wins. Those odds are not bad. Put a stop on my upkeep and my first main, so I could crack Vigil before I draw a card if I think that that's the right thing to do. And a stop on my first main means I can respond to the Saga's trigger before it dies if I draw into another instant speed bargain card. Okay, Shatter the Oath is gross here. Kill our Vigilant Flyer, make Totentowns bigger. They don't attack at all. Just hold everybody back on blocks. Bunch of 3/3s to attack in with. They've got 1 creature that can kill a 3/3 for free. Feels like really excellent attacks here. I don't think Hopeful Vigil helps too much to do it pre-combat because it makes Prophetic Prism and Crystal Grotto much less good as insta-top decks, where if we top deck them with all of our mana up, Song of Totentowns is insane. So I think I'm going to draw blind and get greedy there. Find a stopgap. That's not bad. Cool. We go to the main. Can't bargain this away because stopgap's a sorcery. So we just get our Vigilance. Now I can put the Swarm Piper back into their hands, so any trades and trumps that they have are not giving them more rats. And they don't have a 4 toughness blocker against all these 3 power creatures. I think stopgap's looking great here. Plus we draw another card and maybe even do something else. Because I get to scry before the draw again. Vigil stopgap is so good. I gotta remove the stop on my main phase. It keeps doing full control from here. Pie Wielder, not a bad draw. Another creature we just get to slam down. Seems fine. Don't think it's worth sending in the 2/2. Then they kill that without losing Vermin and make some trades and chumps. Oh, wow. Just gonna take the 9 here. Alright. Here's a Pie Wielder. Gotta be getting real close to our man of any color at this point. 5 cards scried to the bottom. 14. 3 out of the 14 are our any color mana cards. Totentowns is back. They only have 3 blockers on the ground. They block the Pie Wielder 2 2/2s and take 3. Gingerbrute gains them life though, so they don't just die. But attacks are looking good on this board right now. Even if one is a chump attack and a vermin. I guess two are chump attacks. They kill Pie Wielder, kill a 2/2, take 3. Send in the rat? Well, they can't kill Pie Wielder with just Death Touch here because of the first strike, so let's do the block. Yeah, and we just get the free kill. Feels good. Whoa. Okay. That's pretty good. That doesn't threaten lethal. It's pretty good. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater, so they can't vermin the Pie Wielder now? That does feel good if they don't have instant speed removal for Pie Wielder. If they do, it's obviously terrible, because then I lose my mouse too. Now they have to chump the Pie Wielder. I don't get Celebration this turn. If I attack with everyone now, chump Pie Wielder with Ginger Brute, kill 2 of my 2/2s for 3, take 3 but gain 3 from Ginger Brute, so they stay at 3 life. They lose Ginger Brute, I lose 2 2/2s. I actually don't think that's worth it. I think I just send in the Pie Wielder and just kill one of their decent creatures here, rather than sacking 2 2/2s just to do nothing, basically. Yeah, so let's just get the kill on one of the blockers with just Pie Wielder, and then pass from there, and try to find the kill next turn with a wide board state. Another land. Fell Horseman's a good draw at this point in the game. Graveyard Recursion, drop a 3/3 as well. They're going to pick up a Barrow Naughty for a flyer. Yeah, Totentanz's Death Touch here looks pretty good. Just take the 1. Wonder why they wanted Barrow Naughty specifically. 3 blocks on board. They didn't cast Fell Horseman, so they have something for 4 mana at instant speed. Block, 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 take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is not lethal, and I'm losing 3 creatures without getting much done. I kind of think we have to just find one of our mana sources here. I don't think I can risk the attack here, because even if they don't have a 4 mana instant, the attack doesn't look that great for us, and if they do, it's going to be terrible, and they definitely do since they didn't cast Horseman. It's probably the 4 mana 3/1 fairy, and that's why they picked Barrow Naughty. Yeah. Makes sense. Now they just get to start stabilizing with the lifelink, and where are those mana of any colors at? We have dug a lot. If I find any of our sources of any color, I think they are just dead immediately on any of these turns to Song of Totentanz. But we're on to our last possible turn to find it, because they have enough mana, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, to triple buff the Naughty next turn and hit for 6 in the sky. Oh, this is so disappointing. Again, our attacks are losing the Pie Wielder, losing 2 2/2s, hitting them for 4, killing none of their creatures, dying on the crackback. We've got one last draw step here. Might not even be enough now with all that life gain. Oh my god. There's sleight of hand. How? No shot, dude. Oh my god, that's so disappointing. Bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All 3 of our sources of any color are in our bottom 8. Well, we're dead. straight dead in the sky. I guess I get to draw one card and it's going to be exactly too late. This is going to be the source. It's still not? They're in the bottom 7? Okay. Well, I tried. This game might have been winnable with a different line somewhere. I think for the most part everywhere I had reasonable ideas with all the plans, why I wanted to make certain attacks or hold certain things back. So I think I played this out pretty well overall. Maybe I missed like a great attack that could have found lethal somewhere. It's the one thing where things could have gone really differently. Obviously, there's always in a long game like this going to be hindsight plays that would have found lethal with the exact draws that I hit and the exact draws that they hit. But I think without knowing the future of what we were going to draw, what our opponent drew, still played this out as about as best as I could have. Unless there is somewhere that I genuinely just like missed lethal in one turn or something like that, which is possible. I think, in the end, in a much different way, unfortunately, we got hosed by our mana base 3 games in a row, because there's 2 ways we could have won this game. We were at several points basically 1 card away from winning, constantly having our opponent down to somewhere between 1 and 3 if we cracked in with everybody, which means all we would have needed is some other 2/2 or something like that to win the game. So one of the ways we could have won this game is if I just drew one of my on-color cards instead of these 2 on my draw 3. If one of these 2 was just another 2-mana 2/2 or something, that probably is enough to flip the scales, considering we got our opponent down to 1 to 3 life with several attacks throughout this game. So if just one of these is a castable spell instead, that probably tips the scales in our favor. And the other much more obvious way that things tip the scales is that all 3 of our mana sources of a different color are just not in the literal bottom 7 of our deck. We scryed a lot and drew a lot of extra cards. Found none of them, which is rough. The biggest different scry / combat decision kind of thing that I can think of, the biggest decision that maybe goes differently, is the Archon's Glory, keeping that. Maybe we find a great extra bit of damage at some point off of that instead of whatever we drew instead. But I believe I scryed that away and like immediately drew the Pie Wielder or something like that. Like we drew something decent there that probably impacted the game just about as much as that did. Or that would have. Maybe keeping Glory wins this. Again, that's one of those decisions though that without knowing what they're going to draw and what I'm going to draw is really, really debatable. Even if in hindsight it would have found like a victory with the ways that things lined up. We just don't know how they would have lined up here. Yeah, that's so rough. I was having a lot of fun in that game until we spent like 10 turns with these in our hand. Any other spell tips the scales. I thought for sure with the way the game was going throughout that worst case scenario, at least we don't lose to mana issues 3 times in a row, and then there you go. The one way to lose to mana issues that I wasn't thinking of, drawing both of our splashes and none of our splash sources. 3 and 3 it is, but I'm not unhappy with this deck, and this does make me want to play blue a little more often. Probably, again, not in any of the super competitive events still. I'm still a little bit off of it. But I did enjoy the power level of Stopgap and Into the Fey Court and Twining Twins and Charade. The Picklock Prankster just as a blocker was pretty good. And Sleight of Hand served its purpose too. I think every blue card in our deck did perfectly well, super reasonable stuff there, and I'm happy to play with them again at some point, especially with the right synergies. The Stopgap plus Hopeful Vigil was really fun. Scrying 2 and then drawing a card and bouncing something for only 2 mana, that played super, super well. So I loved Hopeful Vigil into Stopgap there. And the splashes were pretty fun, even if that last game was a huge bummer with how we drew. And yeah, I think this deck was super reasonable, super powerful, and honestly, I think it was capable of much better than a 3/3 run, and a lot of what worked against it today was pretty variance-based. As I really don't think our mana base is that bad for the core colors of our deck, and 2 of our 3 losses were just monocolored draws, one of which we mulliganed down to 4 trying to get out of it, and then we're just so far behind in cards there was no way to get anywhere. And then the other one was, well, this time let's try to keep it because we're at least on the draw this time, so I have more draw steps to find the off-color source, and then literally just never did. So yeah, not much you can do about those 2 losses, and I think those are both heavily variance-based losses. The third, much more debatable. There are certainly different lines throughout that game that would have found a victory with perfect hindsight, and maybe there was somewhere without perfect hindsight that we could have. So that one very well could have been user error, could have been gameplay issues coming into play there. But we also drew pretty bad having all 3 of the off-color sources in the bottom 7 and both of our splash cards in the hand. So that certainly didn't help there. So rough to see it go 3-3 after a 3-0 start, especially with many of those losses being heavily due to variance. But that's Magic, baby. It certainly happens sometimes, and 3-3 is what we're going to have to take. Grab our 1,000 gems or 2 packs, move on. That is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the videos. If you enjoy these videos and you'd like to see some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.